Why I spent most of my 20s single. I'm currently 28 years old right now. I'm single. I live alone. I've never been married. I don't have kids. And in this video, I want to talk about my personal story and my personal experiences as to why I've been single throughout most of my 20s and most of my life in general. Now, if this is the first video that you're seeing of me, which most likely it is because this is a new channel, my goal with this YouTube channel is for me, an average young guy, young American in his late 20s, sharing his experiences and viewpoints on how I'm navigating the modern world that we're living in right now, right? So more and more young guys are struggling right now in terms of becoming financially stable, living on their own, and of course, a lot of young guys are struggling in dating as well, and just overall in the world that we're living in right now. So if you are a young guy right now, or maybe if you're a bit older than me, or maybe if you are in like your late teens, and if you feel like you are behind in life, then I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel, and feel free to check out some of the other videos that I have here on this channel as well. So most of the videos that I will have on this channel are going to be regarding corporate America, and making money, because in my case the primary thing that I focus on, so for context, I have an entire separate YouTube channel with a different audience altogether, and that is primarily talking about making money online with digital marketing. So that's kind of what I'm primarily known for, and this is more of like a personal vlogging type channel where I just talk about my viewpoints on things going on in the world right now and what a lot of young guys are struggling with. If that resonates with you, again, feel free to subscribe, but let's talk about why I have been single throughout all of my 20s. And if you have experience dating, and if you're struggling right now, or you decided to walk away, or if you've given up, I invite you to also share your experiences down below and tell me your story and why you might have given up, or why you're still in the game at all. So I'm 28 years old right now. I live alone. I've been living in this current place by myself for about 2.5 years. And I originally moved out when I was 24 years old at the end of 2022. Lived on my own for about a year. I moved back in temporarily, and then I moved out again in the end of 2023. And then I've been living alone ever since, right? So throughout my years in school, I had a few relationships. I had one in high school. I had 3 of them in middle school. I was never like super social by any means. I've always been more of like the introverted type of person. So I wasn't like a loner by any means. Like I had a decent amount of friends throughout school. But I wasn't like super popular, super charismatic. I didn't have, I wasn't like hooking up left and right. I've had other family members and friends of mine that were always, way more social than I was. They spent a lot more time with friends. Whereas in my case, I spent a lot more time indoors, doing things like playing video games, watching movies, and just all that type of stuff, right? So a lot of that is kind of my fault. I could have put myself out there throughout the years, but ever since I've graduated from high school and I have entered the workforce, I mainly just started working like retail jobs, right? So I went to university for a few months, dropped out because I'm like, I don't really see the point of going. I'm just going to get, 6 figures in debt basically with no guarantee of a position. So I'm like, this is a waste of time. I dropped out, and I pretty much just started working at regular retail jobs. So most of the jobs that I've had from the time that I've graduated high school were within walking distance from where I lived. So I lived with my mom until the age of 24. I lived in my mom's basement basically. And the 3 jobs that I had from the time that I graduated from high school before I moved out were within walking distance of where I lived. So I worked at a grocery store as a bagger for about, a year or so. And then I worked at a dollar store, and then I worked at a liquor store for a bit of a time. And so that is actually part of the context here. So because I was within walking distance, I never felt the need to like get my own car. And so that's kind of one thing that has made me struggle when it comes to dating. So most women do not want to date a guy that lives with his parents, and they don't want to date a guy that doesn't have a car either. And so that is kind of understandable. I kind of get that. But in my case, the thing that I've noticed is with the cost of living continually going up, I've decided, okay, well, the best thing that I could really do is just focus on making as much money as possible, as early as possible, because especially when it comes to getting your own place, the thing that's never made sense to me is when you decide to get your own place, you got to verify that you make like 3 times the rent. So either you got to have a really high paying job, or you just have to have multiple sources of income, right? So from there, and I believe a lot of young guys are kind of, it's becoming even more common now where just more young guys are just kind of focusing on making money, as much money as possible. And so that's kind of where I just kind of been focusing on making money. And from once I did finally get into a relationship at the end of 2021, it was actually on complete accident that I met her. So I was filming a video on one of my old YouTube channels. I was filming a vlog outside, right? So I was holding my phone like this as I was walking. My phone fell out of my hand, smacked the concrete, and then the entire screen cracked. So I had to get my phone repaired, and then like a few days later, I went to the phone repair place that was near me. And when I had arrived there, then that was where I met my next girlfriend, right? She just so happened to be standing right in front of the store at the time, carrying like multiple boxes of diapers that I guess I later found out she was going to donate to a charity. So yeah, she asked for help. I helped her out, carry them into a store that was nearby, like the local Starbucks. And then I went to hand my phone in to get it repaired. And then I went home, and then we later connected on Facebook, after I got my phone back. So yeah, we kind of met on complete accident. We dated for a little bit, and the fun fact about her was she didn't drive either. So she lived with her parents. I did as well. We were right around the same age. She was like 6 months younger than me. And then she actually moved out and into her own place about like a month or 2 after we had met. So we were friends for about 3 months from the time that we met, because neither of us drove, and we kind of had a hard time like getting to each other because we were both working quite a lot. And then during the time that we were just friends, she met this other guy friend that became friends with her. And so he did have his own car. I think he had his own place as well. I'm not 100% sure on that. But I happened to ask her out at the beginning of December, and then we started dating, right there. And then end of January, she kind of ended up monkey branching off to that other guy that she met. And so her reasoning that she told me was, hey, you don't have your own car, you don't have your own house. So that was kind of where I just decided, okay, well, best thing that I could do from here is just focus on making more money and try and get my own place and all that, right? So I'm like, I could have tried to go out there and try to become that more social, more charismatic type of guy, but I didn't really feel like it was worth it. And I felt that the best move on the board for me was I just want to build myself up. I kind of want to be, single for a bit. So I just kind of kept focusing on my online business. I started making more money toward the end of that year, and I eventually moved out for the first time. Moved back in at the end of that year because my rent went way up out of nowhere, and my business income went down for a bit. So I moved back in, had to go back to a 9-to-5 job for a bit, and then I moved back out shortly after. So that was kind of one little roadblock that I ran into, but eventually I was able to move out again. I've been living alone ever since. Now, during that time, one thing that I kept noticing is I kept noticing more guys struggle in relationships. And the number one common theme that I keep seeing is women's standards tend to be going up and up and up. And I don't say this as an attack, but a lot of them are becoming more bitter and angry. They have more of an attitude, and I just feel like the quality of women has kind of gone down in the West. Again, I don't say that as an attack. I'm not trying to be mean, but it just what one thing that I've noticed is that they're asking a lot more for less, basically. So and I noticed even you could very easily look at me and say oh, well, it's because you are you're not super charismatic. It's because you're not super in shape. But I know plenty of other guys that have the physique. They're a lot more social. A lot of them, they make good money. And even a lot of those guys, that I'm friends with have told me that they're struggling in a lot of their relationships as well. And the women that they've dated, they have reported where they are often, drifting off. They monkey branch to other guys as well. And that's kind of one thing that I keep seeing a lot. So yeah, that's kind of one thing that has kind of kept me from really putting myself out there as well. And then especially when it comes to the whole idea of getting married, I mean, the cost of getting married is way higher than it's ever been. why are we spending so much money on weddings? That makes no sense at all. And then, especially when it comes to the idea of having kids, I mean, it's like you gotta be in this dual income household, which gives you less time to actually raise a healthy family. And then of course, divorce rates are at an all-time high as well. So like half of marriages end in divorce, and then the other 50% who remain together, like only 3% of them report to actually being happy after just a few years. So it's a pretty alarming statistic to look at, and I believe it's one main reason why a lot of young guys are kind of exiting the dating pool altogether and just kind of focusing on themselves, either just making more money, getting in better shape, many of them traveling more, and that's kind of one thing that I've been looking into. However, yeah, that's the biggest issue that seems to be happening right now. Now, again, I could just, say that, all this is just because, the women are sleeping around. And the one thing that I've noticed, especially when it comes to like a lot of these like red pill content creators or, guys in the manosphere genre of videos, one thing that I've noticed is, they tend to focus primarily on the effect, right? They talk about like women being like less loyal, sleeping around more. And then one thing I often see is like when you look in the comments, there's always women saying, kind of like automatically deflecting it back to men, like saying, oh, men do it too, or it's not all women. And it just, when you look at the overall statistics overall, that is what's making more guys walk away from the scene altogether. Now, that being said, I don't believe that taking the black pill approach is ever 100% the answer, because I think that if we're being 100% honest, like most guys, if we had the option, would rather be in a, would like to start a family and, go that whole traditional route. But the main issue, in my opinion, is just the way that everything is structured in the West. It's the way that the laws are structured. It is the propaganda that's being pushed, constantly telling women that they can do better. And then on top of that, you have all of these dating apps, you have hookup sites, you have social media. It's way easier than ever to message someone, get in contact, and that makes it so easy for people to cheat, basically. So again, yeah, sure, there's guys that do it too, but let's be real here. Women have more opportunities to cheat. So the whole idea that, like, I hear women say that men cheat more often, and the only reason why a woman would say that is because if she's chasing like the top 10% of men. So I mean, like, if the average guy isn't getting, is getting barely any matches on dating apps, and this is even including the guys that are, well put together, that make good money, that even report that as well, then it makes sense that it's women cheating more. And that is just a fact that you have to, of course, take into consideration. So that being said, what I have decided is the best approach for me is, of course, always focus on building yourself up. There's always ways that you can improve yourself. And I think that if you are a young guy right now, it's very easy to get in this, kind of nihilistic, mindset where like nothing's ever really worth it. I try to avoid that mindset altogether. Some might say that I'm being like overly optimistic. However, I believe that the best thing that you can always do is you can always build yourself up, because you'll never regret making more money, basically. And so if you are a young guy and you intend on getting married, you intend on having kids, you want that traditional lifestyle, I believe the best approach right now for that is look into dating elsewhere outside the US. Personally, that's just my opinion. I think that the best approach for young guys right now is to figure out a way to earn an income online and consider looking elsewhere outside the US. So I'm seeing a lot of guys have success dating in Southeast Asia, some of them doing very well in Eastern Europe, where the women are more traditional. And again, I'm not just saying that women are better overseas. That's not the message I'm trying to get across. I'm saying that the way how everything is structured in a lot of other countries respects men a lot more, and the dating scene is a lot more balanced than it is here in the West, right? Where the elites, I believe the main issue above all else is not necessarily like the women 100%, but it's more so the elites that are trying to convince women that they can do better, that, men are beneath them. And that is the biggest issue as well. So the other thing that I like to take into consideration as well is if you intend on having a family, right? Like, let's say that you, as a guy in the West, you become that top 1% that can get like all the women, right? And let's say that you do happen to find a woman that's like of high quality, right? Even if you happen to, find someone who is like faithful to you and you start a family, the thing that you have to be aware of is, again, then there's a whole other hurdle that you gotta jump across as well, which is the cost of raising a family. So unless if you happen to be making like 7 figures or something like that, then that's going to be a whole other burden that you're going to have to worry about. And then on top of that, kids are being raised in environments, in schools where they have all this propaganda being pushed on them, where the gender dynamics are all reversed. And this is just another hurdle that you have to get across as well. So by the time that your son or daughter is your age as well, they're probably going to be struggling with what you're struggling with, but a lot worse. And that is one reason why I believe the best option is to look into getting married and raising a family in another country outside the West. I hate saying that because I want to believe that, America's the best country, but, it's mainly, I believe, just for making money. And just with everything else that's going on, all the degeneracy, all the division, I don't believe that this is the best place to raise a family, in my honest opinion. So, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Did you walk away from the dating scene altogether? Share your experience down below and let me know your reasoning as well. Otherwise, take care and see you in the next one.